What's up, guys? Inside to the Mountaintops. Back again for another off-season podcast here. Welcome in, as every week we have these. Jeremy, how you doing tonight, my awesome co-host?
Awesome co-host. I appreciate that. I'm doing fantastic, sir. Hope you're doing equally as well as I.
Absolutely. Had some fun actually getting together this weekend, so that was awesome to see your handsome face once again.
Yeah, little cards at the casa.
Yeah,
it was a fun night. A little bit of poker. And, you walked away with some money, I think so.
Yeah, second place isn't too bad, right? Out of 8 people, we'll take that. So hopefully we can do better next time. But second place, I'll take it. Win something, right? So obviously you guys aren't here to hear us talk back and forth about our lovely weekend. We are here to talk about NFL Dynasty Fantasy Football as every week. First off, we got a little bit of news, very little. We're going to talk a little bit about, I'm finally in a Dynasty draft, rookie draft, which I thought this was never going to happen. After all the research I did the last couple months, so I was like, all right, well, when am I going to use it? So we'll talk about that real quick. You're in that league as well, Jeremy. And we'll do wide receiver ranks, which is going to be the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about today. Part 1, stop a little bit in the middle there for a player profile, as we do every week in the offseason, on Bryce Young, one of the most polarizing quarterbacks that I can recall in the last couple of years. And then wide receiver ranks part 2 as well, because obviously there's so many wide receivers out there we want to talk about. And we probably won't get to even all of them, but there's so many wide receivers out there that matter in fantasy. So we'll definitely try to get to as many as we can this week. So without me talking too much, we're going to get into news here. Just a couple things from quarterbacks. Jacoby Brissett from the Arizona Cardinals is reporting to minicamp, even though he is in disputes about a contract, from what I understand. He is reporting to minicamp, so all of those Carson Beck excitement that I had might be put on the back burner now, from what it looks like. Anything you wanted to say about that one?
Same. The Carson Beck and even the Minshew Mania hype is he's gonna take a little bit of a blow here. Look, it's gonna start costing him to start missing these mandatory mini camps and stuff. It's gonna start costing him contractually, and we're no knock on the dude because I'm nowhere near the caliber of player, skill set, athleticism, etc. as a man, but he's not making the 50-60 million a year like the top dogs are, so getting fined is a lot different. So it's going to start costing them to miss some of these practices and miss some of this camp. So he's going to show up, and I'm sure he's not going to admit it, but I'm sure the grumblings of Carson Beck and Gardner Minshew picking up where he's left off, he's a little bit in the back of his head.
Yeah, he's one of those quarterbacks. I said this before, I think, maybe even last week. He's one of those quarterbacks that, for lack of a better word, he's replaceable. Like, there's a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL that are not replaceable. He's not one of those. So he had a great year last year, and he should be paid a little bit more, I'm sure. But asking for top dollar when you're replaceable is really difficult to do. So maybe he figured that part out too. I don't know. But one quarterback that is absolutely irreplaceable, and if he is replaced by the Bengals, then your fandom is basically, well, the Bungles again. Joe Burrow restructures the contract. He opens up $10 million in salary cap there. So maybe the Bengals are doing something, I'm assuming on defense, but maybe they're trying to figure out something as well to finish up before the season starts here.
They've done a lot for their defensive team units. So as a follower of the Bengals, kind of excited to see what the defense looks like at the beginning of the season. But $10 million is $10 million. It's not a ton of money, but it is enough to sign like a veteran at some type of minimum or anything on those lines. So let's see what they do with that 10 mil. I'm not rolling out offensive side of the ball as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Offensive side, like, I don't even know where there's a hole there. Well, maybe tight end, but so I lied. Maybe there is a Jonnu Smith sighting, maybe, or something like that. So that would be really interesting, actually.
It would be interesting to have a type signing. The other one that I'm hearing very small grumblings are just within the inner circles of the Cincinnati Bengals is DeAndre Hopkins. Looking for that vet presence in regards to the wide receivers. So I guess we'll see. I know they have Yoshiva's, but I guess we'll see what they do with that. $10 million.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, but pretty light on the news front this week, so we wanted to bring you a couple things at least, both for quarterbacks, of course, here. So before we get into the wide receiver rankings, we're just going to real quick. We had one of our dynasty rookie drafts, and obviously Jeremiah Love went first, Mendoza second, CARNELL Tate third. Jadarian Price went fourth, and that was the first surprise for me, how high he went, and you were the one who took him. So I'd love to hear your thought on that.
I think he's I think he's going to be an immediate impact. He's a running back in a very weak running back class. I came into the draft needing a running back and a tight end, and I was walking in there with the 4th and 5th overall picks. So I tried to maneuver what I could, and obviously that wasn't going to happen. Everybody was scared of the depth of this class, myself included, on the running backs as well. So yeah, I have Charbonnet. I picked him up after he got injured. I picked him up in a trade, so I have him sitting in the woodworks. And I needed a running back desperately, so it was Price at the 1-4, and I haven't looked back.
Yeah, when you're in a situation like you were, where you were like, okay, I have to come out of the first round. I have 2 picks. I have to come out of the first round with a running back and a tight end. Then you're kind of focused in without the wide receivers, which is where usually the 104 is going to be a wide receiver. So that makes a lot more sense as to why you didn't pick a wide receiver. Wide receivers weren't even really on your radar, I feel like, with the 104 from our conversations. So that makes a lot more sense, right? Picking for need whenever you're thinking you're getting close. Is that kind of what you were?
Yeah, especially in this, because everyone is always saying you draft and you're the best player available and everything like that. And I still think we're in a feeling out process of what the best player available is. We're going to talk about one that's shooting up the draft boards in a moment here, but there's some rookies here that are starting to gain some momentum, and they're moving up the draft boards and everything like that. So I don't want to say automatically, what the situation is going to be like on that one, because again, it's a very fluid situation.
Yeah, like I said, there was the top 2, and then where Tate ended up, and then it was kind of like a jumbled mess, right? Yeah. A bigger jumbled mess right after that. So Jerry Price was in that first jumbled mess, so I understand why you took him there. Then we have Mekhi Lemon, Jordan Tyson, and then I actually traded the 111 and the 202 because I wanted to go get my guy who I've been talking about since found out he existed, Casey Concepcion. I mean, that's the truth. Casey Concepcion out of Texas A&M. So I got my guy. I'm excited. I hate he's a Brown, but they should have a good quarterback next year, and that's what we're banking on. But he wanted the 107 just like every other draft I hear he goes at, even though I have him at the 104. So I was pretty happy. Then his teammate, Denzel Boston, which was my second surprise, went right after him. So were you as surprised about this as I was?
Yeah, I liked Boston as a prospect coming into it, but when he got drafted as the second wide receiver and already now clustered, I don't want to say crowded because there are some dogs in there and there are some non-dogs, but in a clustered wide receiver room, I was a little surprised at the move that Cleveland made with Boston, just as much as I was Boston going with the 1-8, especially with other talent was on the board.
Yeah, speaking of that talent, both tight ends go back-to-back. Kenyon Sadiq at 109 and Eli Stowers at 110. Then we have Omar Cooper Jr., who I thought was the next wide receiver going to be taken before Boston. And then we had Ty Simpson finish out the first round. So any other surprises that you saw even in the second round? We're like halfway through our second round right now.
No, I mean, with the momentum that Jonah Coleman's getting out of Denver, I was surprised that he went into the second round. And I guess this was the first draft that I was taking part of post the A.J. Brown trade, even though it was inevitable. Seeing it actually go through now is probably why I'm seeing Sowers shoot up a little bit in the draft boards. But from what I understand, these are the things that are coming into play already. So no real big surprises. It's going to be now. It's going to be the interesting part. Mid-second onward, it's kind of its own tier. So it's going to be fun to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I feel like Jaron Bernard was that last guy, and now it's just And Jeremy Bernard
Okay.
went at the 207, I believe. So right in the middle of the second round there. After that, it's like a free for all. Like who's your guy? Quarterback, wide receiver, tight end, running back, doesn't matter. Who's your guy? Is basically where you're at this point. So it's gonna be interesting to see the rest of that. But just wanted to point out a couple things since we were talking about the rookies for so long. It felt like we wanted to at least talk about a draft that we had before. So let's get into the meat and potatoes of what we're doing today. Wide receiver ranks. This is going to be the part one beginning of it here before we talk about Bryce Young. So my top 10, probably the same top 10 as a lot of people, just different order more than likely. So I still think Justin Jefferson's the best wide receiver in football. He just had a absolutely terrible quarterback. So I have Justin Jefferson, wide receiver 1 at 3 overall. JAMARR Chase, 5 overall at wide receiver 2. CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver 3 at 8 overall. PUKA at 9 overall. Wide receiver 4, wide receiver 5. JAXON SMITH-NJIGBA at 11 overall. 14 overall. AMON-RA St. Brown, his number. Wide receiver 6, wide receiver 7, MALIK NABERS, even though he's hurt. 18 overall. 20 is Drake London. Wide receiver 8, wide receiver 9, TETE McMillan. 23 overall and 28 overall. So all of the top 30. Chris Olave at wide receiver 10.
At the gate, I mean, with some consideration, I think it's all splitting hairs in this top 10. I don't have a disagreement with who your top 10 is. The order is somewhat debatable. Again, splitting hairs. But I'm going with JAMARR Chase over Justin Jefferson. JAMARR Chase has shown that he's quarterback proof. Justin Jefferson has yet to do so. In my opinion, I think that is where the hair gets split amongst the two of them. But no knock on Justin Jefferson because he is the elite talent that he deserves. I'm not saying he's overhyped or anything like that. Again, splitting hairs and taking Chase over Justin Jefferson. But no, I like your top 10. Again, I might shuffle this around a little bit. I'm a little bit lower on NABERS, especially this injury, man. I kind of got Isaiah Pacheco vibes. And what I mean by that is I was beating that drum kind of early that's the type of injury he's not going to come back from. He's not going to be the same. And it's somewhat been true. And I got that same vibe with NABERS. It's not a knock on his talent. I just think the injury is going to be far greater than what he can overcome. And I think he's going to lose a step. But other than that, I think I would put Drake London in my top 5, move JSN to 6. But other than that, I think it's a very even top 10.
Wow, I didn't see that coming. Most people have JSN in the top 3, so I'm really surprised that you have me even lower than I do. I don't disagree with that statement by any stretch. We've seen, but I was going to actually focus on JSN a little bit because I do have him lower than most people do, because he's being talked about in that JAMARR Chase, PUKA, NACUA, Justin Jefferson area. And they're not even talking about Justin Jefferson in that area anymore over JAXON SMITH-NJIGBA. So I was surprised you would put Drake London in the top 5, but I don't disagree. I think that PUKA to Drake London is pretty close there, if that makes sense. That's kind of a pick your guy kind of thing as well. Maybe right after PUKA, maybe like as JSN to Drake, because PUKA's proved it for a few years now. He's been good since he came in. So, but yeah, I was surprised you didn't say anything about TET, but you have TET in the top 10 as well.
Yeah, again, I'd have this top 10 shuffled. I think TET would be in 10th if I had to put somebody here. Mm-hmm. But again, I didn't want to steal the thunder from the next round, but if I had to remove somebody from the 11th to 20th round into the top 10, I would do so and remove TET. TET would be 10 out of 10 on my list if I had to rank your top 10.
Okay. So
does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll get into the top 20, and you can tell me who you would have put into the top 10. Just a second here. So DeVonta Smith is wide receiver 11. He shoots up the board for me once A.J. Brown gets traded, and it kind of happened before the trade because it was inevitable. 29 overall, 30 overall. Right behind him, George Pickens at wide receiver 12. Wide receiver 13 is Jaylen Waddle, again, shooting up the board because he's now the number 1 in his spot. 31 overall, 36. Garrett Wilson, wide receiver 14. ODUNZE, wide receiver 15 at 37 overall. 42 overall is MCMILLAN at wide receiver 16. Wide receiver 17 is NICO Collins. So Zay Flowers right behind him at 49 overall, wide receiver 18. TATE, wide receiver 19 at 51 overall, and rounding out the top 20, 56 overall, EGBUKA. Your thoughts?
So again, I'll go with the negative before the positive here, just because it's the sake of where we left off. Here is where I would pluck Garrett Wilson from your top 15 and put him in your top 10. I think that's where I would have McMillan fall to 11, and DeVonta Smith would then fall to 12, and so on and so forth. I like your shoot up of DeVonta Smith. I think it's justifiable. He is an elite talent. It was kind of being overshadowed by AJ Brown. That overshadow and his targets are now out the door. And I think DeVonta Smith's going to be subject to most of those targets. So I like the move up on him. But look, Garrett Wilson has got to be in the top 10, considering the quarterbacks that he has had in his career and to be able to produce the numbers that he has. He's always had a consistent 27 to 30% target share. He has elite route running and superior separation. I just think that considering the quarterbacks that he has had to throw him the ball during his development in the league overshadows the kind of skill set that he is. So in my opinion, I think Garrett Wilson should be in the top 10. But that's the spoiler alert. That's the one that I would have removed from your top 15 and inserted into your top 10.
Okay, I can understand that. I actually moved Wilson. I forget. I think I moved him down a little bit because of the incoming players. So I think that target share does come down a little bit, and his quarterback has not gotten any better, in my opinion, especially off of what he did last year in Geno Smith. So hopefully he'll be able to have a legitimate quarterback after the 27 class. But again, the Jets are the Jets. We'll see. I don't have too much faith in that, just like I'm a little bit worried about KC's quarterback as well, being that it's the Cleveland Browns. So that's really the reason why is he's been consistent, but I feel like these other people need to move up because of their new situations, if that makes sense. So he did fall a little bit. I had him above DeVonta Smith, George Pickens, but what he did last year made sense to me. Jalen Waddle definitely had him below Wilson, but becoming the number one with Bo Nix, which was pretty good for Courtland Sutton last year. That's why I had it that way, because I looked at the quarterbacks around and I was like, okay, these guys actually have people to throw them the ball. Not so much for Garrett Wilson, but you can only drop him so far, right? Because he is a supreme talent. So anything else you wanted to highlight at all? There is someone who shoots up my board because of the Patriots trade, and we'll get to him in just a couple minutes, but he shot up to 19 for me. But other than that, anything you wanted to talk about?
No, the floor is yours. Go right ahead.
All right, so we'll move on to the next 20. Marvin Harrison Jr., wide receiver 21, 58 overall, 59 overall. A.J. Brown, that aforementioned wide receiver 19 now, was wide receiver 22 when we sent this out. Casey Concepcion, wide receiver 23 at 62 overall, 63 overall. DJ Moore, wide receiver 24. Luther Burden, wide receiver 25, 64 overall, 69 overall. Jordan Tyson, wide receiver 26. Another rookie, Mekhi Lemon, wide receiver 27 and 73 overall, 75 overall. T. Higgins, wide receiver 28, wide receiver 29. DK Metcalf, 76 overall, 81 overall, round out top 30. Rashee Rice, wide receiver 30.
No real complaints in regards to your 20 through 30 here. This is where it starts to get fun, right? This is where you start to see, man, I want to see what this list looks like at the end of the year type people. Like this is like the Luther Burdens, man. I have high hopes on him being in the top 20, if not top 15. You know, if they can get the target share under control in Chicago between him and Loveland and Odunze and everybody else in between, they can get the target share under control. You know, Luther Burden could shoot up the ranks here. This is where I would start putting the rookie talent here as you have with KC and Malik and Jordan Tyson. You have a lot more of the rookies in this group here. Again, I don't have a problem with this group of 10. I have a problem maybe with the order. Regardless of his legal troubles, Rashee Rice being below the three rookies is a little bit of a surprise for me. Again, I understand the legal issues are in a factor here. But if I'm going with skill set here, Rashee Rice blows these individuals out of the water. It just shows how much of a career swing that he is causing with his off the field antics. It's kind of wild, honestly. But nevertheless, I don't have a problem with this group of 10. I like where they all are. I can't really say with confidence that somebody from your top 21 to 30 belong in your top 11 through 20. So I think you rank this one a little bit better.
Well, I appreciate that, sir. I got the seal of approval from the ACT man. But I'll explain the Rashee Rice a little bit because I wanted to put him as low as I possibly thought I could. And this is the reason why. Talent with Mahomes, he's probably top 20, right? Maybe top 15 even when he's healthy and when he's on the field with Mahomes. The Chiefs have not re-signed him. It does not sound in what I'm hearing that he's going to be a Chief long term. And I'm not so sure. You said that he has more talent than the rookies. I'm not sure about that. I think he got put in a supreme situation, and if he's not in that situation, he may fall even lower than what I have him. And also, I don't trust that he's going to be on the field. He's a knucklehead. Like, I don't want anything to do with that kind of player just because I can't trust that he's not going to ruin his career. I took all the Josh Gordon shares I could find in regular or before I even did Dynasty, and it bit me in the behind the one for a year because he couldn't get out of his own way. Now, obviously, it's two different types of scenarios, but I feel like this guy can't get out of his own way, and I'm not going to be bit again by that. So wide receiver 30, I actually would love to put him even lower, but I can't put him below the next people that I have there, if that makes sense, talent-wise. But I do think the rookies have a better chance of shooting up than Rashee Rice does.
Okay, the way that you finish that statement, I can get behind. I would have Rashee Rice a little higher on my list, but I would have the rookies have a lot more greater chance of swinging than Rashee Rice. I think Rashee Rice is a very stagnant player. I don't think he's going to exceed top 15, top 18. I don't think he's going to be below top 25. So, in my opinion, that's right. I'd have him a little bit higher than where you have him, but I have him a lot more stagnant than I would the rookies who are going to potentially swing really high, including some of the ones that you're going to talk about in this next group.
Yeah, no, and I can understand that. We don't have to agree on everything. I feel like we were too kumbaya anyway in this wide receiver first 30. So I'm glad we could get a little bit of difference of opinion here. And I told you that was going to happen. The running backs, for some reason, we're way off on, and the wide receivers, we're kind of simpatico, it feels like. A little bit more, at least. All right, so we're going to move on to wide receiver 31 to 30 to 40 here. We have Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver 31 at 87 overall. Right behind him, 88 overall, Jameson Williams, JMO, wide receiver 32. Wide receiver 33, Brian Thomas Jr. at 93 overall. 94, Devontae Adams, the longtime veteran. Wide receiver 34, wide receiver 35, Jordan Addison at 96. And we finally hit 100. Denzel Boston at wide receiver 36. Jaden Reed, 101 at wide receiver 37. Wide receiver 38, Jacoby Myers. 102. 103 is Alec Pierce. Wide receiver 39. And 106 is Christian Watson at wide receiver 40. You can see that once we hit 100, it's 100 to 106, and I think there's 5 players in there. Obviously, we talk about wide receivers a lot being important, and 36 of them are in my top one, or 36 of them are in my top 100.
wide receivers are such a crazy market. Is that not? Like, there's so many in the league. Like, it makes sense because each team has, what, 5, 6, or say 3 legitimate starters.
Mhm.
So, like, the depth is wild. But we're having some guys who are some superior talents here in the hundreds, which is crazy. No, but I think Brian Thomas has taken a hit dramatically just because of his year last year, rightfully so. He's one I want to see where we're at at the end of the season. I hopefully anticipate him to be up some. But again, it's like, where are these guys going to go? Because I am pleased to an extent our top 30. There's some shuffling around of some of these names, but there's nobody I would say in the top, say from 31 onward, that I would move up, because I don't want to move any of the other individuals down, at least until I see them here. Now, again, we all know how I feel about some of these rookies, in ranking these rookies without seeing significant playing time. They are now on teams, so I can't really gripe too much. They have a system. They have a team that they're going to be a part of. They're filled in accordingly, so I can't gripe too much. But to have, say, I don't know, Christian Watson, I know he's probably down here a little bit lower because of his injury history. I can't complain about that because I am low on him as well due to his injury history. But to have Christian Watson, who just got paid substantially on a contract extension, to have him substantially lower than, say, MALIK or Jordan Tyson, makes it a little bit interesting. But again, I can't knock these rookies for not being able to play when I've seen Christian Watson play in a crowded wide receiver room with a tight end with a tight end heavy pass game. I can't move Christian Watson up higher than, say, in the 30s. So I'm at a point here where it's like last week when we were talking about the running backs, where it's not necessarily who do I move up, it's who do I move down. And I'm running into a hard spot of moving any of these individuals further down than where they're already at.
Yeah, and I think Christian Watson, you bring up a good point. He has played well when he's on the field. At least last year he played well. He deserved the contract that he got. He is super injury prone. Let's not get that twisted. I don't think he's played a full year yet. And I don't believe he's actually the number one on his own team, even though I think I have him ranked as such. But I do have Jaden Reed ranked a little bit higher.
Yeah.
And he's a little injury prone as well, not quite as much as Watson. But also you have to think Watson came back right when Tucker Kraft came out. So it wasn't like they really played together much this past year. And I think Watson took advantage of the Tucker Kraft being out more than any other player. Also, Jaden Reed didn't play a whole lot this past year as well when Watson was on the field. They didn't have those three together. So now we'll see what happens with those three together. And they've all obviously gotten rid of Wicks and gotten rid of Dobbs, and they kind of streamlined. And we're not even talking about Golden yet, who everyone thinks is going to be good. I don't, but other people do. So they streamlined a little bit, but then they expanded again. So we'll see. We'll see what the target share looks like. Also, this is also a possibility that you move all of the Green Bay Packer pass catchers up if Jacobs goes down, isn't able to play for a few games because they don't have a running back behind him at all. So obviously they're going to have to throw the ball more. But it's more of a factor of just like Alec Pierce, he got paid too, but he's done it for 1 year. Just like Christian Watson, I can't move them up over some of these players when I don't think it's going to be consistent. And Alec Pierce has been in the league for a few years, and then he has a breakout out of nowhere that no one really expected. Just kind of that's where my thought process went. Like Alec Pierce and Christian Watson, I feel like are very similar, and they had to be really close to each other because I didn't know where else to put them. And for instance, like Jordan Addison, he had a rough year last year, but he has the talent, immense talent, first round pick talent, immense talent. We've seen it before, and I'm sure we'll see it again. He had a bad year, but I don't want to drop him below two guys that have only done it once. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So like that's kind of where I'm at. And I know you're going to say about the rookies, well, they haven't done it at all. But I mean, we're also talking about dynasty, which means we're talking about age as well, and they are younger and they have a better pedigree coming in than both of those players that I was talking about. So I have a little bit more upside for them than I do with Christian Watson or an Alec Pierce.
No, I don't have much for rebuttal because you took the words out of my mouth when you mentioned, well, the rookies haven't done it either. But you're right. We can't hold them accountable, and we can't hold them against them because they're rookies as well. So we'll have to wait and see how it plays out. Christian Watson's a great example of being someone who can move up with the Josh Jacobs, like you said, with the Josh Jacobs absence. But that's to see another day.
Yeah, no, and like I said, Christian Watson, if he has another good first half of the year, I'm gonna shoot him up the board. I haven't seen him play for more than 7 games in a row. So we'll see if he can do that, and then we'll move him up. So before we go on, that was our top 40. We're gonna take a quick break to talk about Bryce Young. I said this in the intro, but pretty much, I would think he's one of the most polarizing quarterbacks that I have witnessed in the last few years. Whether you like him or you hate him, there's no one really in the middle of Bryce Young at this point. It's either he's a horrible first overall pick, or he still has time to grow. So we're going to talk about that right now. So obviously, Bryce Young, Carolina Panthers quarterback, measurables 5'10", 204 pounds, 24 years old, 2023 first round pick for the Panthers, first number 1 overall pick. Out of Alabama, 2021 Heisman Trophy winner. Career, he has 3 years passing, 8,291 total yards, 180 yards per game. Nothing to be happy about there. Trust me, I understand that. 61.4% completion percentage, 49 total touchdowns, 23, though, in 2025. I bring that up for a reason, and we'll talk about that in a second. Rushing, 718 total yards, about 240 yards per season. Each year has ran less and less yardage-wise, and 8 touchdowns, 6 in 2024. So scored 6 out of 8 of his running touchdowns in 1 year. And that year he had, I think, Leggett might have been his number 1 target. And then he was benched in 2024 as well for 2 games for Andy Dalton because he played poorly at the beginning of the year. Came back and has pretty much been a better quarterback since then, in my opinion at least, but still not where we thought he was going to be. What's your thoughts?
I think he's a better real-life quarterback than a fantasy asset. I think he's one of those ones where if you have a manager in the league, it still values him like a former number 1 overall pick. With untapped potential with what they're building around him, then you should explore selling him for whatever you think you can get for him. If you are, I think he's a solid QB3, low-end QB2. Pretty stable quarterback. He's not going to get you 28 points a week, but he's a decent fill-in or bye-week starter. I'm not expecting him to break out to be an elite tier by any stretch, but I'm looking at him as he's a decent QB too. They are building around him. They did notice that it was obvious in his rookie year that he needed some weapons around him, and they're starting to do that with Chris Brazzell and Pet last year, Jatavian Sanders. Jonathan Brooks not's going to be healthy. I know he does some stuff out of the backfield. So it's Chuba Hubbard. So they have a decent offensive line. It's an offensive line that I tout. It's a very underrated one. So I think the improving ecosystem around him, if you will, is only going to give him a little bit higher of a ceiling.
No, I agree 100%. The amazing thing is he's still only 24 years old and people are writing him off. Like, I think that's incredible.
Right. I agree.
And like I said, I believe he's gotten better every year in real football. Fantasy football, I want him to be my quarterback 3, maybe even 4. I do not want him. I don't want to have to rely on him in Superflex. But if I need to fill in for a week, he's okay, right? He's not going to throw a dud, especially with the better pass catchers that he is growing to have now. And that touchdown number of 23 touchdowns in 2024, no, that's not a whole lot. But when your total amount is 49 and you threw 23 in 1 year, that's kind of substantial, in my opinion, when you've been a starter since day one 3 years ago. So with weapons, I think he can grow. I don't know how much we can develop him in fantasy. Now, again, Superflex, you need at least 3 quarterbacks anyway. He's going to be one of those 3 for sure. But as a wide receiver or a quarterback 3, I would much rather than having to rely on him weekly. Is kind of how I look at it. I actually grabbed him whenever he got benched and sold him for I think a first round pick. Or it was either a late first or an early second. I believe it was a late first, because I was very surprised that someone would give me a first, but he came out of the blocks cooking after he came back. So that's kind of what you're looking for with Bryce Young, right? He's kind of like a stock. As our friend Jimmy always says, they're always about stocks. So like when he has a low game, buy him. And then when he has a couple of good games in a row, sell him. Is kind of how I look at a Bryce Young type quarterback, because he's really rarely going to play on your team. Again, unless you have unless you are either stacked with skill players or taking a dive for the year or someone gets hurt, is kind of what I see. So was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think we summed it up pretty well. I think the highlights are that, he's a QB3, aspect in a super flex, QB3, QB4. Positives, he has, year-to-year growth, as we mentioned. It's improved each year. His passing yards, his lack of interceptions, his football awareness, it's all improved. So having that be a nice pendulum for him is good to see. They are building around him offensively. The sky's the limit for Bryce if he's the talent at which they feel that he is. You and I are seems to be on the same page in regards to how we view him short term and long term. But overall, as a super flex quarterback, a QB3, QB4.
Yeah, as of right now. And I mean, he could develop, and if his weapons develop as I would think they're going to, and in Tet and Brazel, or if Leggett gets his head on straight, or Coke heads unite, Jalen Coker even steps up, he could even vault up a little bit higher just because of the weapons, the plethora of weapons, and being able to pick out, and you finally see what you saw in Alabama, if that makes sense. Because he was a stud at Alabama. Yeah, so we're going to talk about the dynasty value real quick, and then we'll stop talking about Bryce here. Quarterback 23 tier. This is all based off of KTC. Mean to say that every single week. Keep trade cut. Quarterback 23 tier 4 for quarterbacks between Sam Darnold and Kyler Murray. Real quick, the fact that Kyler Murray is quarterback 24, I want to punch someone in the face. Moving on. Overall, 89 tier 10 between Kyle Pitts and Kenyon Sadiq. Also, Travis Etienne's in that realm as well. Average 2026 draft pick is 106 to 110. We'll talk about that in a second. And then future pick value 2027 late first, early second. Your thoughts on the picks and where he's at overall, quarterback ranking, things like that.
I think the pick value is a little high. I don't see him at a 106 caliber quarterback. I see him 10, 11, 12, second round, early second round again, because I don't see him as a top tier quarterback. I see him as a QB3 on a good day. Somebody you're going to start on a good day. Somebody you're going to start with confidence on a bye week fill-in. Starting him week on a week basis. It's just he's just not that quarterback. So I can't be sending that pick on that high of a pick on that.
No, absolutely. 2026, again, I'm not high on this class. So after 110, I would at least think about it. Because he is a starting quarterback and there's only 32 of them, so we need them. The future pick being a late first, I will, if I have Bryce Young and someone is willing to give me a late first in 2027 for Bryce Young, come at me. 100% would take that. I think he's more like a mid-first or mid-second, maybe. So I have him a little bit lower than that. But the overall ranking, even though it's 89, I mean, quarterbacks are going to be elevated in Superflex. It's just what it is. Where he's at, though, the Travis Etienne, Kyle Pitts, Kenny Sadiq, we'll see what happens with him as a rookie. I don't think it's that far off. I think Kyle Pitts is a little lower than I expected, but that realm there, I don't think it's that far off. Do you?
No, I don't think it's that far off. I agree with you on the Kyle Pitts thing, but we'll save that for another show. Yeah, I don't know if I have Kyle Pitts that close to Kenny Sadiq, but nevertheless, I can't disagree too much more with the rankings. Again, I'm more upset who's around those rankings than I am Bryce Young's. Like, I'm with you on the Kyler Murray thing, where I think I'm just going to let the haters be haters until he proves them wrong with superior wide receiver weapons and like quarterback whisperer and KOC. So we'll let Kyler Murray, again, that's for another pod as well.
Yeah, no, we can. I just had to. I couldn't believe when I saw this. He was 20, wide receiver 20, or quarterback 24. And Kyle Pitts, I thought he would have been higher as well, like we said. But 89 overall, quarterback 23. That's kind of where I have him. Sam Darnold, pretty good name to throw out there with Bryce Young, because it's not like Sam Darnold lighting the world on fire fantasy wise. He looks like a completely different quarterback now, NFL wise, but he's not lighting the world on fire fantasy wise. So I get that. So that one makes sense. Anything else you wanted to say about Bryce Young? He did take the Panthers to the playoffs last year, so he is starting to develop something there. We'll see if they can continue that. That South is going to be fun to watch. And they could get there again this year too. So we'll see. But I meant to ask you and then just kind of talked. So anything else you wanted to say about Bryce Young?
No, especially because you took my thunder. I wanted to call out that he did get into the playoffs this year. So, that clutch gene that we saw him have in college, it came out. It was a good one too against the Rams. But nevertheless, Panthers seem to be somewhat legit in a division that's not necessarily known for legitness. And let's see if they can repeat it this year.
Yeah, that division is going to be fun to watch for sure. There's no doubt about that. So, all right, we're going to get to the second half of our wide receiver rankings. And yes, it's the second half. It means it's the bottom 40. However, you need to know about these players, so don't turn it off. We'll start with Mike Evans at 107, wide receiver 41, wide receiver 42, Terry McLaurin at 110, 111, Michael Pittman at wide receiver 43, Josh Downs, wide receiver 44 at 114, Chris Bell, 118 at wide receiver 45, 126, Chris Brazel, wide receiver 46, wide receiver 47, Romeo Dobbs at 127, 128 is Parker Washington, wide receiver 48, wide receiver 49 is Ricky Pearsall at 130 overall, and 131 overall at wide receiver 50, Chris Godwin. A lot of older guys. So what do you got?
A lot of older guys. I'll save it for the next round, but there is a gentleman in the next round that I feel needs to be in the top 50. He's in the rookies. He's in the rookie class. I feel like he needs to be in the top 50, and he just missed it by your cut. But I think that the median age in this group is rightfully so. We have the superior talents of yesteryear that are still able to produce decent wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 numbers, in guys who are no longer their wide receiver 1s, like your Mike Evans, like your Chris Godwins. They are no longer the wide receiver 1s on their teams. But Michael Pittman, he's no longer the wide receiver 1 as well. Taylor McLaurin is, but nevertheless, you get my point. The guys who can still produce, but the best days are behind them.
This is, again, for starter drafts. I forgot to reiterate that this week. I base these rankings off of if I were to start or be in a dynasty league with a starter draft, this is where I would want to get these players. So the fact that Mike Evans is wide receiver 41 does not mean I think he is not going to be good this year. He's probably going to be a top 25 wide receiver this year in the NFL. So in a single season, he would be one of those guys who flies up the board. Terry McLaurin, same thing. Chris Godwin, for that matter, same thing. Because there's a chance he could be the number 1 for that team if he stays healthy. That's a big factor with Chris Godwin, why he's this low as well. But the guys are just older or rookies, it feels like, in this realm here, except for Romeo Dobbs just kind of falls there. It's kind of funny how that worked out. So you're right. These veteran players, you still want to have on your team, but you don't want to, for lack of a better word, waste a pick on them that early in a starter type draft, because what if you end up getting a team? What if your team is built and that's the only older guy you have and you're not ready to win right now? Yeah, you could sell him, but what are you going to sell him for? Because, again, it's a single season that you're really selling them for at this point. I think Mike Evans is 33, 32, 33, something like that. Most wide receivers don't play that long. So, and the only reason that Devontae Adams is a little bit higher than all of those older players is because he scored 14 touchdowns last year, has the MVP on his team, and is the number 2 behind PUKA NACUA. So PUKA's going to get doubled and not Devontae Adams. All those factors make sense. And he's not really injury prone like these other guys are. So
fabulously said on Devontae Adams, as well as these guys' injury history here. It's not kick them while they're down, but they are into guys who have had injury history. They are guys who are not going to play a full season for you, so you're not going to want to have them in there. And I agree with you. I'm not saying that these guys are washed. I'm just saying, Mike Evans 4 years ago goes a lot higher than Mike Evans today goes. It's not necessarily the player or where you're going to rank them in the 40s. It's you moving out of the 30s and 20s to put them in there, and it's hard to pick that. It's at this level here. So I think these guys are rightfully ranked. Don't sleep on Michael Pittman this year. He is the perfect fit for Aaron Rodgers. So I don't sleep on Michael Pittman as well.
No, I like that call. I love the call because he's from a Steeler now, so that I'm excited for that now too. But when we go back to Mike Evans as the wide receiver 41, he's one of my favorite wide receivers in the NFL. I hate the fact that I have him this low. I tried to move him up, but I couldn't. Like, all the other guys are young. Right? So if you're upset with me about that, I understand. I'm upset with myself about it as well. So anything else you saw in the top 50 that you wanted to discuss?
No, sir. I think we did a nice summary here in the top 50. I'm ready for the 50 through 60, 51 through 60.
This is where it gets kind of interesting here. Wide receiver 51, who I think you were talking about in the top 50, who you would put in the top 50, is Malachi Fields, wide receiver 51, 133 overall, 138, Quentin Johnston, wide receiver 52, wide receiver 53, Xavier Worthy, 141 overall, 144 overall, Antonio Williams, another rookie, wide receiver 54, Jeremy Bernard, another rookie, wide receiver 55 overall, or wide receiver 55, 148 overall, 149, Michael Wilson at wide receiver 56, wide receiver 57, Cortland Sutton at 150 overall, 151, Rashid Shaheed, wide receiver 58, wide receiver 59, Wan'Dale Robinson, 154, and 157, Ted Hurst, another rookie, at wide receiver 60.
Well, you nailed it on the head. I'll just cut to the chase. I like his placement against these other rookies in the top 50 or in this 51 through 60 round. But Malachi Fields, in my opinion, should be in. If you're going to put, say, Chris Bell and Chris Brazzell in the top 50, I think Malachi Fields needs to be in the top 50 as well. He is an oversized X wide receiver, in my opinion. He's going to be 6'4". He's like 220, and he gives him a massive catch radius. He has exceptional ball skills, and from what I understand, we see here, his drop rate was microscopic. It was 1.6% drop rate in his final collegiate season. Makes him a red zone threat, chain mover, you name it. And I don't know if this is necessarily my superhero-ness toward Jackson Dart or my negative Eeyore-ness toward the Malik NABERS situation. But I think Fields is going to be able to walk in there with the only competition being a tight end named Isaiah Likely. And I think Fields is going to have a little bit more room to stretch himself out and develop as a rookie. And I think he's going to be able to make some serious numbers early on.
Yeah, and I actually agree with you. I think he is going to jump out and start really well, but he is not the alpha. Flat out. We have a different version of Malik NABERS coming back in our heads, I think. You said you were worried about Pacheco, and you were right about that one. We had that conversation. I didn't think he would come back like he did, and fortunately he did come back a little bit lesser. I don't think NABERS that's going to happen, and I think they're taking their time to make sure that doesn't happen. And the minute Malik NABERS steps on the field, he's getting a 25 to 30% target share, and Malachi Fields' target share dwindles, and I think Likely is going to take some eat out of that too, and Cam and Tracy. I mean, there's some weapons here, and Dart's going to still run. Like, let's not get that twisted.
Correct. Yeah,
he's going to run the ball too. So, so there's a lot of weapons on this team, and there's only one alpha. And not that I don't believe. I don't know enough about Malachi Fields to say that he isn't an alpha, but he's not NABERS alpha, if that makes sense. So that's why I have him a little bit lower. Then in single season this year, I think I have him ranked a little bit higher probably. I haven't done those yet, but I believe he would be a little bit higher than some of the other rookies. Kind of like a Chris Bell would be a little bit higher as well, because there's going to be no other wide receivers on this team. Right? I mean, OBJ, and who else do we say? Juju. There was one other one.
Braxton Berrios.
Oh, Braxton Berrios, who I don't even know when he has been relevant in the NFL. No offense to Berrios, but truth.
Yeah.
So, like, there's not much competition until NABERS gets back. And when NABERS gets back, there's not going to be much competition either, because he's just going to take over. That's how I think. So, depending on when NABERS comes back, depends on if Fields can exceed. But it's kind of like the EMEKA EGBUKA. We thought there wasn't going to be room for him, or he wasn't going to be the alpha, and then both guys get hurt. He looks good. They come back. He doesn't look as good, right? So that's kind of where I think he's going to fall, is there. Not to the EGBUKA level. Don't get me wrong there. Don't get that twisted. But I do think it's going to be a similar situation, just not the same not the same fantasy points, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does make sense.
Anything else in the top from 51 to 60 that you saw?
Wando Robinson, in my opinion, would be a little bit higher if I had to move him up. Again, I don't know if I put him in the top 50 ever since they drafted Tate. I think Tate's ranked rightfully so. I think Wando Robinson is a little lower, but again, it could be just my fandom toward him. I think he is going to do well in Tennessee. I just don't think that they have full confidence in him being the dog with them grabbing Tate. But Robinson, in my opinion, should be moved up at least in the upper 50s or early 50s in this case, for the window's sake. But other than that, no, I'm okay with the ones that ranked here. 60 Ted Hurst. I think I would put somebody. I think I would put. I think I would put Ted Hurst in the next grouping. I think there's just a few individuals who I can move up and argue that would be in the top 60. But we can save that for a few minutes from now.
Oh, wow. I actually have Ted Hurst, I think, moved up in my most current rankings, or that I'm still working on, to be honest with you, after everything I've been hearing. So, Wan'Dale Robinson, I'm not a huge fan. He had a great year because there was no one else to throw the ball to, in my opinion. He got paid for that year, which is great on him. But there's two young guys who I believe more in, and also CARNELL Tate, who they just drafted. Two young guys that they drafted last year. And CARNELL Tate obviously is going to be as I said before, for the Giants, he will be the alpha for this team. And then they have three running backs who knows what's going to happen there. Three-headed monster. So I think Wan'Dale's going to have a good year. I don't know how long he has good years left. Does that make sense? Again,
yes.
Not that he's old, just that we kind of know what he is. And if he's the number 2, he's okay, but not super fantasy relevant in my eyes. So last year he kind of jumped onto the fantasy radar even more than usual because Neighbors went down, Dart had no one to throw to, and Dart was playing well. So he had to find somebody. Kind of like the Theo Johnson kind of jumped on everyone's radar as well last year because of that too. So I'm not as confident in Cam Ward as a lot of other people are. I've said that for weeks. Not saying he's going to be bad. I don't see the great, if that makes sense. So being the number 2 in his offense, I'm not too excited about either. So he might have a better year than where I have him ranked right now, but I think long term it's kind of going to be there. So I'd like to hear who you think should be ahead of Ted Hurst, though, because I've been hearing good things. So we'll do top 70 and then we'll be done. All right. So last 10 here.
Okay.
Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver 61, 158 overall, 162. Jaden Higgins, wide receiver 62. Jacoby Lane, wide receiver 63, 166 overall, 167. Right behind him, Elikeo Manor, wide receiver 64, wide receiver 65. Zachariah Branch, 171 overall. Right behind him is Devontae Wicks at 172. Wide receiver 66 overall. Wide receiver 67 overall is not a wide receiver, Travis Hunter, 175 overall, 178. Matthew Golden, wide receiver 68, wide receiver 69, Keon Coleman, 179, and right behind him to finish off the top 70, 180 is Jalen Coker, wide receiver 70.
This one's going to be a little bit of a surprise, but I like in summary your group of 60, 61 to 70 to be specific. Mm-hmm. I would move some around here and there, but again, we're dealing with some wide receiver 3s, and we're dealing with some rookies here that we need to see some more of. First off, you have Aaron Manor on here as wide receiver 64, yet you indicate that he's better than Wan'Dale Robinson. Mm-hmm. So, but you have Robinson at 59. So just shout out to Wan'Dale Robinson once again. He needs a little bit more love.
I think it's
especially because the two wide receivers who you indicate are going to have better off than Wan'Dale Robinson are ranked lower on your ranks, not KTC ranks on your ranks. They're lower. So I just want to point that out.
And on the next rankings, he's still above DK, which we haven't even talked about, but he is below Iron Man right now. I should have said that when I was talking about Robinson. That was my mistake.
That's fine.
But the updated rankings that I'm getting too, he is higher than Robinson. I knew that was coming, though. I should have known.
No, but to answer your previous question of Ted Hurst, I think I would make a significant jump of Jalen Coker. This could be because I am a recent cokehead, but I'm starting to see with when talent meets opportunity, he is asset number 1 in my opinion. I think he deserves to be the 60th ranked. If you look at what kind of ceiling he has, just look at what he did in the playoff game. I mean, the dude went nuclear. I think he had 9 catches for 134 yards and a touchdown. Bryce Young clearly trusts him. I think he is well past what he normally was like a garbage time stat pattern. I think he is well beyond that. I think he is the wide receiver 2 on that team. I think he's surpassed Leggett, and I'm a monster Leggett fan. I think Leggett has been leapfrogged by Coker to the point where I personally made a switch, and I got rid of Leggett and I grabbed Coker on a dynasty team for this reason. I just think that if it wasn't for his low draft cap, being obviously undrafted, he would be a little bit higher on his ranking list. I think that's the only reason. Was kind of, and that's not necessarily you. I'm saying like in general, because again, he's ranked at 180. I still think he needs to be higher than 180 as well, especially if he's going to be a wide receiver 2 on a team that seems to be pretty balanced in passing and running.
So I have him as my wide receiver 3 on this team, but I'm a fan of Brazel. I'm hoping that he's different than all the other Tennessee Volunteer wide receivers that we've seen in the past, right? And if you want to talk about size and speed combination, Brazel is that. He has immense potential to be that outside guy, the number 2. And I think Coker is going to be a really nice number 3. But a number 3 on an offense with Bryce Young, who we just talked about as the quarterback, I'm not super excited about. I'm hoping that I'm wrong because I do like Coker, and I love the fact Cokeheads unite. That thing's hilarious to me. It's always fun to say. But I had him 3 last year. He moved into the second wide receiver 2 for that team last year later in the season. But I think he's going to be wide receiver 3 again this year, and not because of the same guy, but because of who they drafted in Brazel. That's why I have him a little bit lower. But I like him. I wish I could move him up. I have a lot of faith in Brazel, in kind of taking over that team, the touches on that team. Anybody else? Man, the Travis Hunter, that wide receiver 67, he was like probably top 20 for most people going into last year, and he was a rookie. Or probably top 30, I would say, if I remember correctly. So how might he have fallen because now they have too many weapons and he's going to be a defensive player. I think that's crazy. So
one rookie that's getting a lot of hype that we haven't talked about that I want to get your opinion on is Buffalo wide receiver Skyler Bell.
Yeah, so I have him on this list. Again, I'm redoing the list. It just timing issues didn't get me to get it done for this pod. But Skyler Bell, wide receiver 87, the 4th wide receiver in Buffalo. He has now jumped, I think, into wide receiver 55. From what I'm hearing, he's going to be the number 2, the Robin to DJ Moore, if you want to say that, kind of what Keon Coleman was supposed to be. It hurts me to say that Coleman hasn't been able to become that guy, but he hasn't. And Khalil Shakir, he's going to be a nice slot guy like he's been, but now he can actually play the position he's supposed to play, which is possession, slot guy, 3rd option kind of thing, where 2 other guys are able to kind of take over, if that makes sense. And DJ Moore is the number 1 alpha, and Skyler Bell learning from a really good wide receiver in DJ Moore. So I'm excited to see kind of what he's able to do and learn from DJ Moore, because that dude is a freak when he has a good quarterback. And you can't get much better than Josh Allen. So when he's the we talked about DJ Moore last week, when he's the number 1 and he gets the targets, he is a great wide receiver. And then you add in the fact that it's the best quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion. It could be fun for him, and it's going to be a lot of fun for Skyler Bell too, because he's very similar on the outside. So yeah, I'm all wheels up on Skylar Bell. I jumped him, I think, like over 30 spots or something like that on my next rankings, just because of what I've been hearing, and he's now the number 2 Buffalo Bill on this list.
Okay, I fully agree with you. I think you summed it up perfectly in all elements of Skylar Bell. I know he was been moving up, and it was discussion that he was moving up on your list. So I wanted to see exactly where he was going to be placed. So well done in summary. I can't disagree with any of it.
Well, thank you, sir. Anybody else outside of the top 70? I know, like, it's hard to talk about anybody outside of the top 70. That seems like insane that we're even talking about 70 wide receivers. But, like, Matthew Golden was at 68, and it makes sense, right? Like, there's relevant players in the top 70 and even below that, like, there's so many wide receivers out there. It's insane. It's incredible. So anybody else that you saw that you were kind of interested in? Juwan Jennings fell from grace in my eyes. That's the one I would talk about. Wide receiver 82 now, 230 overall because, well, he's number 3 in a team that throws the ball to 2 guys. So he's now the Jalen Naylor for the Vikings when Jalen Naylor got a couple weeks, but it's Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, and it's pretty much it for that team. So Juwan Jennings hopefully is able to have a resurgence as a number 3. That would be crazy. But I had him plummet because of his situation where he's at now.
The only one I really even talked about besides Skylar Bell rookie wise that I want to give an honorable mention to is Caleb Douglas. I don't know exactly if I would put him in the top 60 or anything like that. I maybe the top 80. But Caleb Douglas, he's overshadowed by the Chris Bell draft. But Caleb Douglas is going in there without a busted knee. He's 6'4", 205, and he ran a 4.39 40. So, like, he's super fast. His college, in 40 games, he had over 2,000 yards receiving and 16 touchdowns. And he had a 120-inch broad jump. So, like, the metrics are there that he did the combine. He was drafted 3rd, pick 75 by the Dolphins, by the way. And, again, everyone likes to talk about Chris Bell going into this wide receiver room that's basically empty. Caleb Douglas is as well. So, I mean, I know the talent's there, and the injury is what's causing Chris Bell to fall a little bit, and not only the draft, but in some of the preseason rankings and everything like that. But don't sleep on Caleb Douglas out of Texas Tech.
Yeah, and he was the first wide receiver drafted, and I had both of the other wide receiver rookies drafted that were drafted after him ahead of him, just because he was off of everybody's radar. Everything that I looked up, just like a couple of the picks that the San Francisco 49ers had, just like it was baffling to me. And then they made the right call with Chris Bell, and I love Chris Bell. If he comes back healthy, it's going to be I think he's going to be the number 1 easy, at least for a year. But they also drafted Kevin Coleman Jr., who I was excited about whenever he got drafted to Miami. It's just a free-for-all. I believe Chris Bell's going to be the number 1 and the alpha on the team. However, I don't know who's going to be the number 2. Malik Washington's still there, who's semi-relevant, I guess. When Waddle left, he was going to be the number 1, is what it seemed like. But the two rookies, Kevin Coleman, as you were saying, Caleb Douglas, one of those two may show up as well, and Chris Bell needs to show up to prove that everyone was right about him. But it's a free-for-all in that offense, and unfortunately I think they have a tough quarterback to be able to make that decision process. So hopefully I'm wrong about the quarterback, as we've talked about in the past as well. Or they go out and get a better one next year in the 2027 draft to figure out who is going to be on the team, and then who they can really say goodbye to or anything like that. So Caleb Douglas could be the number 2, could be the number 1 as that he was drafted. We have no idea because there's just a free-for-all for the Miami Dolphins. There's one thing we know. A-Chain is going to get the ball a lot. For Miami, that's about all I know.
And I got to share it. I'm all in on him getting the ball.
Right, that's how I feel too. But yeah, I mean, honestly, flip a coin or roll a die and see which one it lands on, because I have no idea who's going to be the number one here. I have a strong opinion it's going to be Chris Bell. And then the number two, I have even less of an idea, wide receiver-wise, because of those other three guys. So, yeah, you can move them up, absolutely. I have no idea. So they're really ranked pretty close together, I believe. Kevin Coleman is wide receiver 76, Malik Washington is 77, and Caleb Douglas is 84. So pretty close together, wide receiver-wise. But yeah, that was a good call to bring up because he was drafted 70. You said 75th overall?
Yes, sir.
And no one talks about him on anything.
No one, not a soul.
Nobody's talking about him. No one's excited about him. Nothing. The Chris Bell draft very quickly after that was kind of a reason why, I believe. But he was drafted before him, and there must have been a reason why, at least in Miami's eyes. So we'll see what happens. Miami does love fast, but the guy who loves fast isn't there anymore. So I have no idea if it's just a Miami thing or if it was a McDaniel thing. So interesting call for Caleb Douglas. I like the shout out for sure. So anyone else that you want to talk about or you want to head out of here? We're a little over an hour, I believe.
I think we're good here. I think overall, you summed it up. I don't think we're in as much disagreement on the wide receivers as we were any other position, especially the running backs. But no, just a little bit of shuffling here and there on some of these PICKENS rankings. But other than that, I think this was a decent list that kind of went with consensus and kind of your own little spin on things as well. Overall, I like it. It's roll tide.
Awesome. Yeah, for Bryce, how about that? There you go. So next week we'll be talking. We'll be getting out of the rankings and going into what were the toughest players to rank. Who are the toughest players going to be to kind of figure out what they are. It's going to be a nice, fun list, and I'm sure we're going to have some obvious ones and some not so obvious ones as well. And then we're going to go into a player profile for DeAndre Swift, who very well could be on that list above us that I just talked about, toughest to rank. But we're going to dive in to DeAndre Swift's season past and what we think he's going to do in the future as well. And the final part of next week is going to be same face, new place. These are the players that have changed venues, changed teams, such as a DJ Moore, as we were talking about before. And how we think they're going to do better, worse in their new home. So we'll talk about that next week as well. But for Jeremy, I'm Mickey. This has been Dynasty with the Mountaintops. Check us out on Podbean, YouTube, and Apple. Also check us out with our socials on Blue Sky and X at DynastyMTTops. And email us at dynastymttops@gmail.com for any comments, show ideas, what you think about the rankings. Do you agree with Jeremy? Do you agree with me? Of course. I like what I said last week. Was I right? Was Jeremy wrong? That's what I like to hear best. Or if you have any thoughts on toughest to rank before we even get into it. So be pretty interesting. Anyone you want to hear about. So let us know. But again, this has been Dynasty Mountaintops for Jeremy and I am Mickey. Have a great week. We will see you next week.
Thanks a lot. Cokeheads unite.